Welcome to Culture FC, the weekly soccer show that's not about soccer. We cover lifestyle, fashion, music, culture, all the things surrounding the beautiful game, just none of the stuff happening on the pitch. I'm Louie.
I'm Brendan.
I'm Alan.
And today's episode was a little bit different than what we've been doing the past, couple episodes. We had the chance to have Mr. Greg Garza on the podcast, and we interviewed him a little bit about his life. For those of you who don't know, Greg Garza is the left back for Atlanta United, and he has played for the USMNT national team.
A couple highlights from the interview. We talk about his career in Sao Paulo, and then Portugal, and then he went to Mexico. Following that, he's now in Atlanta, and he's got some really cool things going on, things he's done, things he gave us some insights on. Really excited, really glad he was on the show.
Yeah, so we want to thank Greg for being on. It's awesome to get player insight and kind of see his career unfold and from where he started to where he's at now. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, we'd like to thank Greg. We'll throw his Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything in the show notes. We're sorry for the audio. He's actually in Brazil traveling or on vacation with his family. So we had to set up a little WhatsApp call. So his audio might be a little distant, but I think that you're going to get some great insight from him on his life and what it's like to be a professional soccer player and make it to the level that he's made it at. So don't forget, if you like everything, subscribe. We're going to be putting the stuff out every Monday. Facebook, YouTube, and on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, etc. So enjoy, sit back, put your headphones in, throw this on the car radio, and hope you really like this.
Welcome back to another episode of Culture FC. Joining us today via video call is MLS AllStar, Atlanta United star, Greg Garza. So welcome, Greg. Thanks for joining us, man.
No, thank you guys for the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited. You're our first guest on Culture FC, so we're pumped to see kind of how this works out, and we're glad that you're the first guest here.
Thank you guys.
So yeah, let's just jump right in. So basically where we wanted to start is just give us a quick little overview of your your origin story of where you grew up and how you got into soccer.
All right, we might be here for a long time.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we want to kind of let everyone know you're from where you started until where you are today, kind of your outline.
No worries. I'm originally from Dallas, but I've lived more than half of my life out of the country. Growing up, I was a big baseball and soccer player, and I had a Brazilian coach that saw something in me in soccer and had me go on trial in Brazil for Sao Paulo FC, and came when I was 12 years old, went on trial, ended up staying, and ended up living in Brazil for about almost 2 years, a year and a half.
Wow.
And that's where it all started for me in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, playing with kids like Oscar, that's in China right now, that was in Chelsea, other Brazilian pros that are probably not as well known, but also grew up playing with me. But that's how it all started. And from there, I had the opportunity to go to residency in Florida with the national team. I grew up in the residency program that doesn't exist anymore. This year, after the 17 World Cup, was the last year that they had together with John Hackworth, which was also my coach there. So yeah, I did 2.5 years of residency, graduated high school early, played the 17 World Cup, and then had the chance to move over to Portugal after the U17 World Cup at Sporting Lisbon, and was in Portugal for about 4.5 years. That's where I really grew up. That's where I really I'd probably change from teenager to a man, and really learned probably how I play today. Really gave me the characteristics that I have as a player today, and just growing up in probably one of the greatest professional environments there is in the world, and sporting, creating young players. And from Portugal, went to Mexico for 5 years, Club Tijuana, Atlas, and that was also a great run for me too. So with all those different places, I call myself a gypsy. I have a gypsy tattoo of a woman. I usually explain to people that's how we live. That's how we survive. We never have a home sweet home. We're always traveling, and It's what we do. It's what we love, and our families are the ones that travel along with us and follow us along.
That's cool. So just as a reference, both Louis and I we're from Brazil. Like our families are from Brazil.
Okay.
We're big Cruzeiro fans. So we kind of
speak Portuguese or no?
Yeah.
Follow him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Brennan's just one language here, but
nothing good.
You get to learn. No worries.
but we kind of wanted to delve in because the story of going to Brazil and kind of getting that experience is pretty uncommon for a U.S. player, or at least I'd imagine so. Kind of, do you think that was a big stepping stone in your professional career or soccer career because it is such a different culture?
Just as for my professional career, but I think is also just creating me as a person. You know, my the way I am. You know, I think that I was in 7th grade the first time I went to Brazil. So, you know, growing up with as an American kid, you have everything at the palm of your hand. Luckily, my dad is a salesman in telecommunications. We had food on the table. I had toys when I wanted them, and I had my Game Boy when I was 12. And going over to Brazil and playing with kids that are 11, 12 years old, they're from the favelas. You know, the slums. This would be an English word, but trying to create a life for themselves, and not only for themselves but for their families. So I think that not only on the field, but I was playing with probably the best kids I've ever seen in my whole entire life. At that moment when I was 12 years old, but also you know, helped me grow off the field as well. You know, helped me mature in down Sao Paulo. You know, with these kids, I think I grew up super fast. Not a single kid on the team spoke English, so probably within about 4 or 5 months, I started to pick up Portuguese, and now as if Portuguese is probably my first language. You know,
That's awesome.
I still forget some words in English because my wife is Brazilian, and you know, I grew up with the Portuguese probably more than half my life, but in Brazil, and you know, also so many years in Portugal as well. So I think that was probably the biggest, the most important step I could have made to make it where I am today. And I mean, you know, this career, it's a roller coaster. There's a lot of ups and there's a lot of downs, and not many people understand that from the outside. They think it's all bright stars, but there's a lot of sacrifices that come along with it. And I think for me, that was one of the first sacrifices that I had, was to leave everything I knew in the States and you know, at such a young age, and just throw myself into something that was completely different. But it was what was needed for me to follow my dream and to conquer my dreams as well.
Yeah, man, that's really awesome. One question that we wanted to ask more in terms of like culture and things like that is like, what do you enjoy the most about like Brazil and Brazilian soccer culture?
It's a passion here for them. You know, there's 20 channels that talk about soccer every single day, and I'm probably watching 20 of them every single day that I'm here, and that's all they talk about. I mean, Mexico, the Southern American countries, Europe even as well. It's just it's a religion for them. You know, I think we're probably still far away from that within the States, but it's getting there little by little. But here for them, it's a passion that you know, they die for it. They die for what they love, and I think that's probably the biggest difference. They're fanatics here. Something is different within their blood that allows them to love a team with so much passion that they'll do absolutely anything for that team. And I think that you know, growing up with that and growing up with kids that even played with me at Sao Paulo, but may have been you know, they may have cheered for Corinthians or Palmeiras or other teams, but them growing up at Sao Paulo, but they would never give up their love for the other clubs that they grew up loving as a kid. So you see that every single day here. You know, the talk on the streets and the talk between my father-in-law and his neighbors, it's about soccer. Every single day, everything, all of our conversations are about soccer, the love for the game, and which team is doing, what new coach they have, what new players, how many millions has a new player been sold, and all that kind of stuff. So it's the talk of the town. It's the talk of the country. As if and in the States, it's getting to that point, but we still have a long way.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's something that we'd like to touch on a little bit later as we're going through kind of your progression. But you say that you then went to Portugal, and that's kind of where you became a man. Could you explain, just in terms of, obviously in terms of age you grew up, but did growing up there playing there kind of shape you as well? It's obviously I don't know the economical difficulties of Portugal per se, but I think it's a little bit better than what Brazil was at the time that you were there. Kind of how did that play on you growing as a player, as a person, etc.?
Yeah, Portugal for me was, by the way, I'll retire in Portugal after my career, so that's our plan as my family will, after my career, definitely live in Portugal after everything is over. But Portugal for me was probably the greatest moment for me to make that jump through the opportunity, the window of opportunity of being this youth player and turning myself into a professional soccer player. So I think that what the academy is doing today within the United States is what I went to Portugal, but I would probably say times 10.
Yeah.
You have kids that are already in the professional environment that there's no more learning. There's no more learning to the point to where when I got there when I was 16, I was already treated as a professional. I signed my first professional contract, and from that moment on, I was treated as a professional to where whatever I did was looked upon. I ate was looked upon, however I trained was looked upon, and every single game was looked upon. So by so many different people, and I think that when there's so many kids that age, growing up in that lifestyle, they're so used to it. But for me, it was definitely a push because I got to Portugal being known as, okay, this American can play soccer pretty well, and then after a while, I started to have to prove myself as one of them. So it was a good change for me because I became one of them. I wasn't just the American. I was a team player, and I was part of probably one of the most important youth academies growing up into the professional academy there is in the world. I mean, you have Luis Figo, Cristiano Ronaldo, Ricardo Quaresma, Simão, so many different players that are, one of them is just won his fifth golden ball. So I mean, it's just there's so many things that they put on you in that club that made me grow on and off the field as well. It made me become the professional player I am today. I think off the field, because on the field there's so many different players, there's so much talent, but I think it's the little things that you do off the field, the little things that you do extra is what makes you, who you really are. And I think that's what really taught me there those 4 years of becoming, making that jump, as I said, from the window of opportunity from the youth player to becoming a professional player.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting take on it. And kind of just not jumping too far ahead, but you keep mentioning this thing of the U.S. is not there, and kind of contrasting that with how you're treated in Portugal and Brazil. Do you think that the players here are kind of still coddled too much at a young age? And because we talk about it, we obviously have never been to that level, but some of the things we feel in a lot of other countries, it's either you're kind of making it as a pro player or you're not. That's kind of the only difference, where here you have different options, which we're blessed as a country to be able to, we can play soccer but also go to college and all this. Whereas in these other countries, they are treated more as professional players from a very young age, and that's kind of what they see themselves as. Do you think that plays any role in kind of the development of players, or you don't think that has anything to do with it?
I think just the mentality is a bit different. I mean, I think that's where the passion of it comes in. I think that, the American mentality is college first and sports, school first and sports second. And whereas in other countries, it's they'll throw away those, which, I mean, school is so important, but I mean, I think that with the lifestyle that they live within Brazil and within other South American countries and even in Europe, I think that them growing up at such a young age within that professional environment, as you mentioned, is just they have a different take on life. That's their main goal in life, is to make it as far as they can and to provide for themselves and their family. That sometimes school is left to the side. But with that said, I mean, I think with the Americans, with us Americans, having the mentality of doing school first is obviously, in my opinion, very correct. But I think that's where that small spark of passion is just a big difference within those different countries that soccer for them is a religion. It's what they live every single day, and it's what they live every single day from when they're 4 years old to other things within school or becoming something else within life. But their main goal is to become a professional soccer player. And I think myself growing up, I prayed every single night. Since I was 4 or 5 years old, I said, I prayed to God that this is what I wanted to be. And luckily, I had my parents backing me up and supporting me all the way through, and actually got to that point to where I was able to follow my dreams. And I still did school as well. I still graduated college online. Got 2 diplomas in international business and sports management. So, school is something obviously so important, but for me, my first goal was to make it professionally. So, I think that luckily I had that passion growing up, and I had the support from my parents as well.
Man, you must have had some awesome parents, because that is your story to me, man, is incredible. It's incredible. But
thank you.
So let's moving it along here a little bit. So you went from Portugal to Mexico, and what was that like?
That was a long run for me, because after Portugal, I was in 3.5 years in Sporting, and then I was in 1 year. I had 3+2 option in Sporting, and they didn't take up my option, and I went to a second division team in Portugal, and got little time there. It was my second professional year as a player.
What team is that? Sorry.
Estoril.
Estoril. Okay. Cool.
So I was in the second division at that time. And now they're in first division, but it was the second division at that time. I didn't get much playing time, and I had 2 more years left with them, and I decided to quit my contract and just try to find a new place. And that for me was tough times. I was already married. I got married at 18, and that was right after my marriage. I decided to quit my contract and try and find a new place, which was probably a rough 6-7 months for me, and trying to find a new home, and having the responsibility as a new husband, and having the responsibility as trying to continue to follow my dreams, and those were some tough times for me. I went on trial in probably 8-9 different places, and then finally luckily I was still involved with the youth national team as well, and with the under 20s. I played the under 20 qualifying, which we didn't qualify, but I had a very good qualifying, and then after that was seen by Tijuana. Went on like a training trial. This was in 2011, end of 2011, and then had the opportunity to make the move to Mexico, and acquiring my Mexican passport from my father, who was Mexican, and that was that. So it was a rough time for me. Those were times to where I was thinking, all right, I'm not sure if this is going to work for me. I'm not sure if soccer is the best answer for me, and I'm sure many other players probably could go through the same thing, and many players probably trying to keep following their dreams. But I never stopped. I never gave up, and luckily made the move to Mexico, and pretty much started from zero in Mexico as well. So it was a lot of sacrifices. As I said, it's a lot of sacrifices that we take, and moving from Portugal to Mexico was just another gypsy run for me and for my family, and today I thank Mexico for everything that they've done for me. Everything, it's a country that has given me everything as a player, gave me the opportunity to play for the highest level of the national team, and really my trajectory as a professional player probably really started within Mexico. So I'm very grateful and thankful for everything that happened there, and I think that's really what was probably the biggest stepping stone within my career.
So with that, quitting your team, your contract, was there any other time during your stint as playing soccer, have you ever felt that, I don't know if this is going to be it? Like, have you ever had, like, any other crazy times where, like... That was probably the only time that, I had a guaranteed contract for 2 more years in Portugal. And with that, I probably could have got my European status. I probably could have got my European citizenship within Portugal. Could have got Portuguese citizenship with... which as a player within Europe helps a lot. I didn't want to leave Europe at that time, but I didn't really have much of a choice. I wanted something new. I needed something new for my career, and I took the risk of not accepting or declining the 2 guaranteed years that I had, and went through some tough times. Had the help of my wife and
my parents and my in-laws to help me out. But you know, going through those times was definitely difficult. And I mean, I probably without that, it probably wouldn't have allowed me to look at this sport the same way I do today. And I would probably say the only other time was you know, when I had to go through the excruciating surgery that I had on my hips and my pelvic bone after the Gold Cup in 2015 with the national team. That I those were probably the two moments that I probably thought that, I'm not sure if soccer was for me, but I just in doubt, probably just in probably the biggest doubt I've ever been in not knowing if I was ever going to be able to play the same way or ever going to be able to play at the same level that I thought I could play. But you know, those are things that we have to go through. Those are things that that you have to you know, climb, and the consequences that you take and the sacrifices that you make in trying to play at the highest level you can and in following your dream. And for me, those are probably the two biggest doubts that I've had in my career so far. Hopefully I will have nothing else that will try and stop me. But you know, it'll just be another mountain to climb and another goal to achieve as well at the end of the day. And I mean, this, as I said, we're gypsies, and this career is a roller coaster. It's not all stars, and you know, a lot of people think from the outside that once you make it, nothing is guaranteed. You know, I may have signed a multi-year contract with Atlanta now, and you know, we feel very comfortable within that city, but nothing is ever guaranteed in this sport. You know, you fight for your spot every single day, and you try and make a life for yourself and for your family as long as you can. And I think that you know, as long as you can do that, hopefully until I'm 35, but who knows, and you have to prepare yourself for the future and what's to come after that.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. So you mentioned Atlanta, and you know, in the interest of keeping this a little bit more brisk, let's try to get to the more meat part of Atlanta here.
Okay.
What's it been like in Atlanta? Because from an outside perspective, Atlanta seems to be doing all the right things as like an MLS city, as an MLS destination. You know, packing stadiums, getting fans involved, getting, you know, celebrities and more like professional people involved with the sport, which we see, you know, in our hometown team. We go to a Revolution game, sometimes they don't even crack 10,000 people watching the game at the stadium, you know. So what's kind of that been like, and how was the transition of coming back home to the U.S. to play?
I think I didn't expect it at all, but I mean, for me, it was you know, coming back from injury, the injuries that I had, and not knowing if I was going to play anymore in Mexico because there was a new rule about me being a foreigner, and a lot of things went through my career at that specific time, which was right before I came to Atlanta. And Atlanta, you know, it was kind of one of those things. Hey, I'm going to play again to try and you know, Atlanta really stepped up and you know, allowed me to have the opportunity to start playing again. And I think that you know, as an institution and as a club for them, I think they picked the right moment, the right place, right time. You know, I think that within Georgia, there were so many people that were waiting for that. And Georgia is actually a melting pot with I mean, just so you can think about it, I think there's 150 or maybe 200,000 Brazilians that live within where we live.
I had no idea.
You know,
yeah.
It's a huge melting pot. Wow. So I mean, for my wife and also for myself, but I was probably about 13 years without living within the United States, and coming back to Atlanta and thinking, all right, my wife doesn't speak English. I haven't lived in the States for years. This is going to be a big test for us to adapt. You know, it's like when a Brazilian goes to Thailand or to China or to Russia. You know, it's a huge move. So it was a huge move for us. And you know, the first 2-3 months were very hard on my wife. You know, but then we found the Brazilian community, and it's ginormous, the Brazilian community, and you know, that's really helped us a lot as well. But I think that as a club standpoint, as I said, they picked the right place and they picked the right time, and you know, there's so many people that have been waiting for this within Georgia. And every time you do get stopped on the streets within Atlanta, and they'll tell you, said, we've waited for something like this for so long, and we're so glad that you guys are here. And you know, the good thing is we had a pretty good start for our first season. So we actually set the bar. We actually set the bar pretty high, and hopefully we can do the same thing next season. But you never know. As a soccer play, and you know, teams, it's also a roller coaster. I mean, you guys from Boston, right?
Yeah, Boston.
Revolution.
Yeah.
In New England, they had I think it was 2 years ago that they had a really good run.
Yeah, they went to the MLS Cup and lost.
And then the past 2 years it's gone a bit downhill, so it's a huge roller coaster. Everywhere you are and everywhere you go, it's always like that. So hopefully we can keep that roller coaster keep going up for the next year. But as I said, I think Arthur Blank and the directors and the club for themselves, they picked the right time, the right place to really invest in what's really made the city jump. And I think that you guys are from New England, you have the Patriots, so it's really hard for someone to surpass their everything that they've accomplished within that area. But for Atlanta, Atlanta really doesn't have any teams that have really done much within the city. You have the Hawks that that never really won anything, and the Falcons have never really won anything either. So I think that it gave people a bit of hope, and hopefully we can give that hope back to them throughout the next couple of years.
And you mentioned obviously that you kind of didn't have this expectation for it being such a team that with so much backing from the get-go. Was that the general feeling across the team? Was it was kind of more like an anxious, like, what are we going to get day in, day out? And then kind of how was the feeling of seeing that stadium packed and having all those fans behind you when you didn't have so much of an expectation?
I think for everyone had the same feeling that I probably did personally. You have I think within our team we probably have about 14 different cultures, 14 different countries involved.
Yeah.
And I don't know, we probably have even more this season, but everyone, whoever's from Ireland or whoever's from England, the Germans, the South Americans, everyone from everywhere it comes from everyone comes from places to vision for them, and for them to come from that and into Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz, even Bobby Dodd, that was filling every single game from 45,000 net. 75, 80. So it's really just everyone has just really jumped out of their seat from the get-go. We had a preseason game against Chattanooga in Tennessee with their USL or PDL team, and I want to say there was like 14,000 people there just to watch our game.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was the first days that I had actually been in Atlanta, and didn't realize that it was going to be that big. And that just proved to you that even before we went into preseason camps and all that kind of stuff, we had an exhibition game against Chattanooga, and there were already so many thousand fans at the hotel and at the game. They as I said, they mentioned to us every time they stopped us on the street that this is something that they've been waiting for. I didn't even expect people to stop me on the street as well. You come from Mexico, and you come from Tijuana, a small city in Mexico, but it's a place wherever you go, everybody recognizes you and take pictures with you and stuff like that. But within the States, I would have never imagined that I could walk around in downtown Atlanta and have people recognize you. And I'm sure everybody probably feels exactly the same. And it's been awesome. I can. It makes you feel wanted by the city, and it makes you feel that you're in the right club. And I feel really sorry for a lot of the rookies that are on the team, because they're coming into a place to where they're stars, where they might go somewhere else and they might not be as used to how much they are as a star. So you never know.
What's up? So you mentioned the packed stadium, and I want to ask you this. So in the grand opening of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you scored the final goal of the game. How did that feel?
It's funny, we actually joke around. As I said, I mentioned that we have about 15 different cultures on the team, and one thing I have a buddy, Jacob Peterson, that's on the team as well, and Michael Parker is the captain, and after the game they were joking around with me. They said one thing you can at least write down in history within the club in Atlanta is that we were the first American to score in the Mercedes. So that's something to put down in history as well for myself, and always to remember and joke about. So I know it was a wonderful feeling. My parents, that's the first time my parents have actually seen me score a professional goal, and they were there as well. And I think that just for my family as well, it was a wonderful feeling for me. And I think that every win, every I mean, every loss, everything that goes on, for me, I think before every single game, I always look up to the sky and, thank God for putting me, where I am today, and, kind of see my career go from all the sacrifices and from all the injuries and everything that I've been through within my career, and kind of live that day as if, not as if my last, but it might be my last day on the field. So, you can, especially when you have goals like that, it's a feeling that you can't really describe. It's just you kind of see your whole entire trajectory and your career go through you all at once, and you kind of see yourself on cloud nine. So for me, that was a special moment for myself, and I think that also for my family as well.
And we hope more to come, dude.
Yeah, seriously.
I hope.
So in terms of obviously Atlanta, kind of unmatched in terms of support in our eyes. Do you think when you go and travel, what other places do you like playing around in the MLS that kind of can match that intensity, that fan passion, somewhere that you and all the other guys kind of really get hyped up to play at?
I think, let me start thinking. I think that the Minnesota game for me was a pretty cool game because it was also their home opener, and it was minus 40 degrees. It was freezing, and it was snowing during our game, so that was a crazy game to play in. But it was so cold and snowing, but the stadium was still completely packed. So
wow.
I'm not sure if it was only because it was their home opener, but I think they do have a pretty good fan base as well in Minnesota. Orlando was also a pretty cool game, and they've also kind of made it like a little Southern Classico between Atlanta and Orlando, Georgia and Florida. That was also a fun game to play. And every game was awesome. I think that as a player for myself, just to be able to play again and feel myself again after the surgeries and everything that I went through was something very special for me and also for my family. I think that after my surgeries, I was out for a year and 3 months before I actually played another official game. So going through three different surgeries in two different separate moments was excruciating for me. I think that I was in bed for a couple months after that, in a wheelchair for a couple months after that, and crutches for a couple months, and after that learning how to walk in a pool again. So just going through the motions, everything that I went through after my hip surgery and my pelvic surgery, just to be on the field again was a true blessing for me. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to cut back or to cross or kick the same way. Not sure if the movements were going to be the same, but
man, I'm happy you made it back, man. That's an incredible story. And to prove that, you came out on top. You were named an MLS AllStar inside some of the biggest stars in MLS, and it's just like awesome to hear, man. I'm very, very happy for you. So how was that like? How was the MLS AllStar Game like?
Man, you're sitting in front of. It's funny. You have Miguel Almiron, which is our DP in Atlanta, and we get on the bus the first night to go out to dinner, and he's our DP in Atlanta, so he's our big time player in Atlanta. He looks over to me and he looks at the other side and he's like, dude, Kaká is sitting right next to us. And I'm like, yeah, he's right there. He's right there in the same bus as we are, man. And it's funny because he's as big of a player, as much as voted he was one of the best players in the league in MLS. And you have Kaká that was named the best player in the world before Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo era. So Schweinsteiger, World Cup, both World Cup champions. But you have so many people that were there that were just unreal. David Villa, the guy that you dreamed about playing with. And even though my stint was about 2 minutes long within the game, dislocating my shoulder, but I would probably go back in time and still dislocate my other shoulder if I could to play again with those guys and be on the same field as them. And that was an awesome feeling for me as well. As I said, your trajectory as a player, and it flashes through your eyes when I was in warm up with those guys. Being able to do warm up and playing possession with those guys, you're doing warm up in possession with guys that have done so many things within their career.
Yeah, and in terms of just like special feelings, special moments in your career, how do you compare that MLS or the All-Star Game to when you first made your national team debut?
The All-Star Game, I would probably say, is the second best. I would probably say the first best was, to put on the national team jersey. I mean, for me as a player, They're very few of us, but I did every single age group. Yeah, every single age group. So from U14s, U15s, U17 World Cup, U18s, U20s, U23s, and then to actually debut with the full team. That was, as I said, see so many flashbacks. As I went on the pitch for the very first game and with the U.S., I think that to see my whole entire career backwards, going, rewinding and going from that very first camp as I had as a U14, I was 12, 13 years old. So, that for me is probably the most special moment I've ever had as a player.
It's got to be insane. Now, I got a question. Does your family keep all your jerseys and everything? Like, have you had all your jerseys?
All right, so yeah. My parents actually have, going up my stairs, they have actually every jersey that I've played with. So
that's so cool.
Awesome. I'll send you guys a picture. So.
Yeah,
please do. I would love to see it.
How far back does that collection?
No, you know what? Not so far. I mean, man, I don't have a Sao Paulo one because I was 12 years old, man. So the jerseys were probably just Sao Paulo. I don't even think I kept a jersey.
Yeah.
But from Sporting to Estoril to Tijuana to Atlas to national team and now Atlanta. So yeah, it's probably about 5 or 6 there. So
that's so cool.
It's been around. Hopefully it'll be 5 and 6 more after that. I have to create another wall to put hold on.
Definitely.
So yeah, we're gonna try and wrap it up a little bit. Basically, we wanted to just talk to you a little bit more about, just a couple rapid fire questions. Like, what is as a player? I know sometimes you're a fan of a lot of teams. What is your fan club, like the club that you really support?
What's my team?
Yeah.
All right, so I have a few teams. All right.
Okay.
In Brazil, I'm São Paulino.
Okay.
In England, I like Chelsea, but I mean, I'd probably say my favorite team is I'm a Barca fan. So
Okay.
I'm a Barca fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool.
I'm a true Barca fan. It's cool. My wife's brother, who gets here tomorrow, he went through the whole La Masia in Barcelona. So
Really?
he's also a player. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's so
He played
cool.
12 years. He played 12 years for Barcelona. So I did under 12s all the way to Barça B, and now he plays in another team in the second division in Spain. So
That's awesome.
it's pretty cool to within the same family.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, definitely. What was your childhood soccer idol?
Childhood soccer idol, man. There's been a few, man. I wore the David Beckhams when I was a little kid, but I'd probably say probably Ronaldo. Ronaldo number 9.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
The jersey might be the jersey you're wearing right now.
I wish. No, I lost my Ronaldo number 9 jersey. This is Luis Fabiano because it's the only one I have now.
Okay. All right. No, I'd probably say Ronaldo when I was growing up, and I probably still think he's, man. If he didn't have his injuries, I think he'd probably still be one of the greatest ever. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, just to think of what he was able to accomplish in those short years, anyway, is just crazy.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Your favorite player that isn't yourself currently?
Favorite player isn't myself. It would probably be Marcelo. I would never say myself as being myself. I try and do my best, man. That's all.
Yeah.
But, I think Marcelo. Marcelo is a guy that I could sit down for hours and watch just videos on YouTube and try and learn new little flicks and stuff like that. I think he's I like guys that there's something different about.
So
him.
yeah, he's so tricky. He's so tricky for a defender.
What are you listening to right now?
So what's your favorite music artist or band group? What's currently on your playlist?
I listen to a lot of pagode,
Wow, you're Brazilian, man.
Dude,
Yeah.
I'm loving this interview. The more and more we go along, I'm loving it.
You're full Brazilian.
All right.
So listen to some pagode. That's where it's
I
at.
grew up in this, man.
All right. One of the last rapid fire questions. Between last year's home or away kit, which one did you like more for Atlanta?
Man, my whole career I've been in the black and red, man. So I like the black and red.
Black and red.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
See what they come up with next year.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yeah. But all right, man. I think that wraps it up for us. Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners? Anything you want to plug?
No, that's good, man. Yeah, I enjoyed being on the show. I appreciate you guys. It's been fun, man.
We
Greg,
apologize
yeah.
for the connectivity issues, dude. We hope you have a great vacation and a happy holiday.
Yeah, we wish your family the best, and we hope you enjoy the holidays.
Greg,
you guys too. Take care, man.
muito obrigado, viu?
Muito obrigado.
Yo, beijo,
Feliz Natal.
beijo. Beijo.
Tchau, tchau, tchau.
Tchau, falou.